Svegliata l'America.
So Linda, how did USA woke up on Wednesday when we learned that Trump won the election?
I think that myself and many Americans were very surprised at how the victory for President-elect Trump was not only momentous, but it was actually volcanic. And I know that this is not a very good word in Italy right now because of all the tremors there, but this was really a volcanic election. And I think the feeling of the country is one of what's next? What does this hold for us? This is really a brand new experience for us.
Sì, dunque Linda ha detto che sono stati lei per prima sorpresi, lei, gli americani, tutti quanti. Si è trattata di una vittoria particolarmente risonante. Lei ha detto vulcanica, scusandosi del fatto che in questo momento in Italia parlare di fenomeni di questo tipo non è proprio il momento migliore. E in realtà lei si chiedono tutti, e adesso tra poco penso glielo chiederemo anche noi, cosa succede adesso?
Esatto, Linda, cosa accadrà adesso?
We are going to do the same question to you. What is going to happen next from Obama to Trump? What do you expect now?
Well, so far, we're working on what is called the transition right now. The transition should be a very smooth process, and we're looking so far at a pretty smooth process. But down the road, we see quite a few problems just because we have a lot of things to reconcile. First, in the transition, there are going to be many important positions, key positions to fulfill. There are immediately some very big ones like Secretary of State and, of course, Secretary of Defense. We have a few ideas of who these people will be, but then after that, there will be 4,000 positions to fill. 100 of those will require Senate confirmation. And this is a very, very long process. Okay. And it can be a process that sometimes can be very difficult.
Sì, stava dicendo appunto che la prima cosa su cui si stanno concentrando tutti è proprio la transizione, che di per sé dovrebbe essere un processo, scorrevole. Mm-hmm. Al tempo stesso però ci sono dei problemi, comunque delle questioni da affrontare, prima tra tutte le posizioni che andranno rinnovate, ricoperte, il segretario di Stato, il segretario della Difesa,
certo.
Così via, per un totale di 4.000 comunque posizioni che andranno appunto nominate.
Oh Linda, però la domanda secca che voglio farti, tra l'altro stanno arrivando tantissime domande, qual è la tua idea? È stato un risultato imprevedibile secondo te? Era così tanto imprevedibile? O qualcuno ci avrà avrà pensato che almeno uno, in tutti gli Stati Uniti, che Trump potesse vincere? Perché almeno dall'Italia il messaggio che è passato è che nessuno se lo aspettava. Tu che ne pensi di questo?
So, Linda, we are going to ask you, was it really a surprise, Trump's victory, or did you expect something from this election?
It was not a complete surprise to me. And I'll tell you, if anybody used, whether it's a reporter or whether it was a citizen, used their powers of observation, what you really noticed was that there was a tremendous enthusiasm. People had signs on their lawns that said Trump intense. When you looked around, when you left your house in the morning and you looked around, you didn't see that kind of enthusiasm for Hillary Clinton. So if you just use your powers of deduction and really of observation, you would see that there was a groundswell of enthusiasm for Trump that really wasn't there for Hillary Clinton. So it wasn't a total surprise for me. And I think when I saw Roberto in Kilkenny at the Association of European Journalists meeting, I did say that I felt that Trump would win this one. I had the same feeling when George W. Bush won. Most of the polls were saying that Al Gore would win, but I said no. I really feel that the mood of the nation is really going toward George W. Bush. And that was after a very rocky last 2 years for President Clinton.
Sì, dunque stava dicendo Linda appunto che la sorpresa c'è stata, ma non è stata così forte come potremmo pensare noi.
Ecco.
In qualche modo si poteva capire osservando un po' la realtà intorno a sé. C'era molto entusiasmo intorno a Trump, anche molte, come dire, dichiarazioni di voto esplicite per lui che non c'erano invece per la Clinton, quindi assolutamente sì. Linda raccontava di un vostro incontro a Kilkenny, forse è più carino se lo racconti tu a questo punto.
Assolutamente. Ricordiamo Linda Gasparello, tra l'altro co-host and general manager della White House Chronicle on PBS, quindi la maggiore rete nazionale, la PBS, l'unica rete nazionale che ha un bacino d'utenza incredibile. Ci siamo incontrati a Kilkenny in Irlanda nell'ambito di un congresso invece che parlava di Brexit. No, Linda, Brexit. ma importante. però insomma un po' come quello che è accaduto in Inghilterra con la Brexit, no? In America in questi giorni.
Yes, is it similar what happened to Brexit and what happens now in America? Do you think there are the same?
I think some of the mood that you saw in Britain with Brexit, this idea that we need to, as some Britons thought, who voted for Brexit, that they needed to preserve their identity, that this was really a question of Englishness. There's a little bit of that in the United States, in what Donald Trump tried to inspire, which is this, he inspired people who really felt that America could be great. Did he mean by that an America without the many immigrants who have come here recently, who were maybe threatening white American identity? It's similar in that sort of sense. Similar in the sense that people felt their identity was threatened, and he tapped into a very, very deep vein of that in the United States, where you have states that we used to call, the Midwest, the Rust Belt state. People who were left behind by manufacturing jobs going overseas, by new immigrants coming in, taking away, they felt, jobs from them. And so, in a way, there are some similarities there, yes.
Yes. Sentiamo Michelle?
Sì, dunque, stava dicendo che tra la Brexit e la vittoria di Trump c'è ovviamente un legame molto anche di sentimento in un certo senso. C'è la voglia da una parte di preservare la propria identità nazionale, da una parte ovviamente inglese, dall'altra americana, e soprattutto per quanto riguarda l'America nello specifico. L'idea di Trump di rifare un'America grande si appoggia su tutto un discorso di esclusione di alcuni ceti sociali, la cosiddetta Rust Belt, dove i residenti bianchi sono stati in qualche modo lasciati indietro dalla crisi economica e si vedono quindi minacciati dai nuovi immigranti che arrivano. È un fenomeno che in qualche modo conosciamo anche noi, mi permetto di aggiungere a questo punto.
Invece, Michelle, volevamo chiedere a Linda, no? Come anche sottolineava Raff, c'è stata
un dato interessante è stata la grande affluenza al voto rispetto alla normalità. Non si vedeva così tanta gente alle urne dalle elezioni di Reagan. Questo vuol dire che Trump è stato capace di parlare a quella pancia di paese che non andava a votare da anni. Quindi com'è possibile che la più grossa democrazia del mondo poi commetta una leggerezza simile?
Okay, we are going to do a very complicated question. Is it true that with Trump you have many voters that didn't vote before? So how did Trump convince people to go and vote for him?
I think he convinced people to vote for him with very simple language. As I said, he was really able to tap into something that people really felt, the mood of the nation. And these were people, who felt they had been left behind, people who blamed government for leaving behind, but also people who wanted to go on a blind date. I don't know if you've got that expression in Italian, but they had a president, for 8 years, who I think served the country very well, but they didn't. But the voters who voted for Donald Trump didn't, and they really wanted to go on a blind date. And even those, who were sort of on the ledge, they thought, well, maybe this billionaire, maybe somebody, and of course that's kind of questionable too, but maybe this billionaire is somebody who will affect change. Change was the word. If my life could possibly change, and he would always say, change for the better, by going on this blind date. Well, we know what happens on blind dates. Sometimes they work out, and sometimes they're a big mistake.
Yeah, that's clear. So, allora, stava dicendo Linda, giustamente, come ha vinto Trump? Trump ha parlato un linguaggio semplice, diretto, che è arrivato appunto a quelle persone che in qualche modo si sono sentite abbandonate, lasciate indietro dalla crisi economica e non supportate dal governo. E poi c'è quello che lei, con una metafora molto azzeccata, chiama il sentimento di andare a un appuntamento al buio.
Il brivido
dello sconosciuto.
Certo.
Quindi sì, si va a un appuntamento al buio, si pensa che sia l'incontro che può cambiare una vita, alcune volte funziona, alcune volte non funziona. Quindi dopo 8 anni in cui c'è stato un presidente molto forte, molto carismatico, che a parere di Linda oltretutto ha anche governato bene, c'è anche un po' il desiderio di buttarsi su una questione un po' sconosciuta.
Torniamo con Linda. Può aspettare, Linda? Can you waiting for 2 minutes, Linda? Linda?
Roberto, yes, I'm here.
Yes, ok.
Could you repeat that?
2 minutes, Linda. Lanciamo il pezzo e torniamo.
Oh, that's good, I'm fine.
Ok, thank you, Linda.
From the depths of the sea, back to the block, Snoop Doggy Dogg, funky as the doc. Went solo on that ass, but it's still the same. Long Beach is the spot where I serve my cane. Follow me, but you bet not slip, cause 9 tris ain't the years there for me to cleanse out my crib. So I ain't holding nothing back, and once again I got 5 on the 20s. It's like that, and as a matter of fact, cause I never hesitate to put a fool on his back.
Yeah, so keep out the manuscript. You see that this a must we drop gangsta.
Hold up, what's my name? Yeah. It's the bound to the wild, creeping and crawling, Yiggy yes and Snoop Doggy Dogg in the house with the pound like every day. And I'm right back up in you with Dr. Dre. And like I said, none of y'all can get with this, and none of y'all can get with that hit I just dropped, cause you know it don't stop. Mr. 187 on the undercover cop. Tick-tock, never the clock, just some nuts in the cop. Rob you for your ends, then I kill you blood clots. And I step through the fog and I creep through the smoke, cause I'm Snoop Doggy, 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 Dogg. Just throw your hands way up in the air and wave them all around like you just don't care. Yeah, roll up the and pour the drink and watch your stink. Cause Doggy's on the game. My bankroll's on swole. I'm still on hit legit, now I'm on parole. Stroll with the dog pound right behind me and rolling with my bitch. That's where you might find me flinging that G thing. She want the G with the biggest. And who's that? He is I and I am him, slim with the tilted brim. What's your name,
Eccoci qua con Avanti Tutta Radio Chaos Italy, Linda Gasparello in diretta da Washington, anzi dovremmo dire tra Washington e Providence. No, Linda, ci sei?
Long train running.
Yeah.
Linda, ok, perfect. Chiediamo a Linda se secondo lei, what do you think about the international, la politica estera, Michelle, la politica estera, quello che Trump ha dichiarato durante tutta la campagna elettorale, se secondo lei verrà attuato in parte, in che misura?
Okay, so do you think that Trump will keep his promises, and what will be his foreign policy?
Oh, boy.
A simple question.
At this point, keeping his promises really is going to be very, very difficult for him. On the domestic side, he has really given those who voted for them the expectation that he is going to deliver jobs for them. Now, for an American president to say that has always been a bit of a stretch, because an American president's power is really in foreign policy. On domestic policy, much really depends on not only the private sector, but really, honestly, what Congress will deliver. We've gotten rid of a lot of what they call earmarks in Congress, which was a way for congressmen to deliver to constituencies programs that gave them, that basically gave them jobs. And in the business climate in the United States today, you have companies that are they're investing in propping up the shares of their stock. They're not investing by hiring more people. They're reducing the number of people that work for them in order to prop up the shares of their stock.
Yes.
So President Trump cannot actually force businesses to hire more people. He can provide a tax environment that may make it more propitious, for businesses in the United States.
Yes,
but he can't actually say to business, hire more people. And as the president, he actually can't provide more jobs except by working through the Congress on maybe, say, infrastructure projects.
Okay.
And I think he plans to do something like that.
Sì, dunque stava dicendo giustamente che una delle promesse di Trump, o comunque una delle cose che ha fatto credere agli elettori, è quella di far ripartire il lavoro, il mondo del lavoro. In realtà è una promessa difficile da mantenere perché come presidente degli Stati Uniti può intervenire solo attraverso il Congresso, quindi attraverso il Congresso si possono fare degli interventi che sono più a livello di tasse e incentivare il settore privato ad assumere, però è anche un momento in cui il settore privato si sta più concentrando sul mercato finanziario che non sull'assunzione di nuovi lavoratori. Quindi questo sarà
però,
molto complicato.
La working class, insomma, no? La working class. Ma chiediamo a Linda, no? In una parola, secondo lei, in pochissime parole, perché ha perso Hillary Clinton? Secondo te, Linda?
So the next very simple question. Why did Hillary Clinton lose the elections?
That is, I can give you a very simple answer for. Hillary Clinton just could not connect in a way that would get her elected. And a lot of it was quite unfair. A lot of it was the fact that there was just a relentless amount of information that went against her. Whether the information was being spread by Russia, and that was relentless through email revelations. And again, she was responsible for the email problem. But the fact that it was being pushed through WikiLeaks, which was being inspired by Russia, the fact that she is more of a policy person and not a people person. She doesn't have the common touch that her husband had. And basically, Trump relied on his instincts. You can't believe that somebody who is an East Coast elitist would have that kind of common touch, but he does, because he had that simple way of connecting with people. He used simple phrases that she just could not master. And I think her programs would be better for people in the United States, but she couldn't communicate those programs very well. And let's face it, there is a deep vein of people in the United States who dislike the Clintons and did not want to see another Clinton in the White House, or did not want to see a woman in the White House.
Ok. Dunque, perché ha perso Hillary Clinton?
Domanda semplice, ma risposta non altrettanto semplice.
È complessa.
Sì, ma in realtà anche la domanda non era così semplice. Era breve ma non semplice.
Esatto.
Dunque, riflessione principale è che Hillary Clinton non ha saputo mettersi in connessione con l'elettorato, quindi non ha saputo comunicare i suoi programmi, che comunque erano dei programmi che avrebbero favorito di più l'elettorato probabilmente, ma non c'è stata la capacità di comunicarli e al tempo stesso c'è stata contro di lei una campagna di informazione che diciamo l'ha messa in cattiva luce. È stata una campagna di informazione
molto forte,
supportata o comunque diciamo anche favorita dalla Russia, le rivelazioni di Wikileaks, lo scandalo delle email in cui comunque lei aveva un ruolo. In generale, diciamo, non è stata in grado di mettersi in connessione diretta con l'elettorato come invece comunque ha saputo fare Trump.
Cioè non ha creato quell'empatia con il popolo americano o una parte di popolo americano che evidentemente ha scelto Trump. A tal proposito sono interessanti, Linda, a proposito di Europa, le dichiarazioni di Juncker, che ha detto appunto che con lui perderemo 2 anni perché non conosce il continente europeo, tant'è che pochi mesi fa qualcuno gli disse se conosceva il Belgio. Ah sì, una bella città. Quindi insomma Juncker è un po' preoccupato della scarsa conoscenza dell'Europa di Trump, no? Del continente europeo, delle sue 1000 sfaccettature.
Yes, as to foreign policy, Juncker just declared that with Trump we are going to lose 2 years because Trump doesn't know very well Europe. What do you think about that? Is it real that the foreign policy of Trump will be not so clear?
I have no indication that Trump knows anything about Europe. And I think that Europe ought to be very nervous, extremely nervous. After all, it was Trump who threatened on the campaign trail to back away from the North Atlantic Treaty Organization and force U.S. allies to shoulder more of the burden of their own defense. Europe should be very worried about that. There's another thing that Europe should be very worried about, and that is the fact that his style of politics, Trump has become a trailblazer of this new authoritarian and international chauvinist movement. And I heard a Flemish nationalist say that when it rains in the United States, drops fall on Europe. And I would look at European right leaders who are looking at Trump and saying, I want to emulate what he did. You have a lot of elections coming up in Europe.
Yes.
You've got elections in Austria, you have elections in Italy, you have elections in Germany, you have elections in France. Is Trump going to reverberate with these? Is his style going to reverberate with these elections? Are we going to see, for instance, Marine Le Pen elected on a first round? I mean, and I can see this happening because I think they could triumph in his success. So, as I said, you've got a toxic combination here. You have a combination of a man who does not know Europe, except for golf courses in Scotland, which he owns. As a candidate, he did not visit Europe, which is unlike other presidential candidates who usually go to Europe before they are elected president. And to me, it's a very, very troublesome time.
Ok, Michelle.
Sì, in estrema sintesi l'Europa si deve preoccupare per Trump.
Esatto.
Abbiamo già avuto le avvisaglie di una minaccia di ritirarsi dalla NATO, abbiamo anche tutta una serie di leader europei che si ispirano a Trump e che dal successo di Trump potrebbero trarre a loro volta un successo elettorale. Ci sono elezioni che si stanno per svolgere in diversi paesi europei, c'è il referendum in Italia, quindi tutte queste forze che in qualche modo in Europa si richiamano alla linea autoritaria di Trump potrebbero prendere forza.
Magari sull'onda dell'entusiasmo.
Bad news, dear Linda. Very bad news. Ultima, the last question, Linda. Allora, facciamo una battuta finale, visto che insomma Linda è una delle giornaliste più veramente brave, posso dirlo io, la conosco da poco, ma ho letto quello che ha fatto e ha fatto veramente tantissimo. Ma vogliamo fare un'ultima battuta. Secondo te, Linda, è meglio Donald Trump o Frank Underwood?
So, as a last question, we're going to joke a little. Is it better to have Frank Underwood or Donald Trump as a president?
Okay, if you love this Machiavellian choice, I would rather have Frank Underwood because he's a lot smarter than Trump.
Ok, thank you. Dunque, penso che i nostri ascoltatori l'abbiano capita la risposta.
Sì.
Comunque, se si tratta di fare una scelta machiavellica, è meglio Frank Underwood perché è più intelligente.
Bene. Poi piace di più agli italiani Underwood rispetto a Trump. Questo lo possiamo dire.
Parla per te.
Per Camillo parlavo, che è del Minnesota. Linda, dove stai andando adesso?
Linda, where are you going now?
I'm going up to Boston right now, and I will be doing a speech up in Boston at Harvard University. So I'm on the road. I'm going to spread my doom and gloom up in New England. I think that they're all wearing black up there. But la commedia è finita.
La commedia è finita. Ok.
Sì, ci diceva Linda che è in viaggio verso Boston, dove parteciperà a
Boston, ok.
Sì, a un convegno universitario. Dice che si aspetta di trovare lì lo stesso malumore che prova anche lei in questo momento,
certo.
dove tutti, dice anche a Boston saranno tutti vestiti a lutto.
Esatto. Linda, noi ti ringraziamo e ti salutiamo. Thank you so much per queste fantastiche parole, per questa... Michelle, salutaci tu, Linda.
Thank you so much, Linda, for your answers and your humor.
Oh, you're so welcome.
Yes.
Call me anytime.
Thank you.
See you. Ciao Linda.
Bye.
Ciao Roberto. Ciao Italia.
Ciao. Ciao.
Avanti tutta!
www.radiochaositaly.com